It was a bright morning on Earth when the first signs of the invasion appeared. The sun was shining brightly over the cities of Earth, and people were going about their daily lives. But all of that was about to change. Out in the deep reaches of space, a massive fleet of warships powerful beyond imagination was heading straight for Earth. The Galactic Empire had arrived. The Galactic Empire was an ancient and mighty civilization, known across the galaxy for conquering planets with ease. They had built their empire through force, crushing weaker species without mercy. Earth, a small planet in the outer rim of the galaxy, had been noticed by the Empire's scouts, and they saw it as a ripe target. The humans were primitive, weak, and had no chance against their advanced technology. Or so they thought. The first wave of ships descended into Earth's atmosphere, cutting through the clouds like knives. They were enormous metallic giants that cast long shadows over the land below. Their weapons were capable of destroying entire cities with a single blast. As they hovered over the planet's major cities, ready to make their move, Earth was thrown into chaos. People panicked, fleeing the streets, while military forces scrambled to respond. But the humans, though they were frightened, had something the Empire did not expect: their sense of humor. As the alien ships prepared to strike, Earth's military forces, led by General Markson, began to react. They fired back with all the weapons they had, but their missiles bounced harmlessly off the hulls of the Empire's ships. The Empire's ships were nearly indestructible, and the humans were outmatched. It seemed like there was no hope. But then, something strange happened. As the Empire's warships loomed above, a human broadcast began to spread across the galaxy. It wasn't a message of fear or surrender. It wasn't even a call for help. Instead, it was laughter. Laughter echoed from Earth, coming from every radio station, every television screen, and every device across the planet. It was a simple, unexpected response that no one in the Empire could have predicted. The humans weren't afraid. They were laughing. It started with a message from Earth's top comedian, a man named Jake Daniels. He was known for his quick wit and ability to make people laugh in even the most dangerous situations. And now he had turned his attention to the invasion. He appeared on every screen wearing a goofy expression and said, "Well, look who's come to visit. You sure you picked the right planet? We've got enough problems here without you trying to blow us up." At first, the Empire's commanders were confused. They were expecting the humans to cower in fear, begging for mercy, but instead they were faced with mockery. The laughter grew louder as Jake continued his performance, making fun of the Empire's ships, the alien soldiers, and even their leader, the Emperor himself. His jokes were simple, but they struck a chord with everyone who watched. People all over Earth began to laugh along with him. Even soldiers who had been preparing for the worst couldn't help but chuckle. The laughter was more than just a sound. It was a weapon. The Empire's advanced communication systems began to malfunction. They were overwhelmed by the constant barrage of jokes, pranks, and sarcastic comments. The Empire's commanders tried to block the transmissions, but the signal was everywhere, from the radio waves to the television broadcasts. The laughter became deafening, and soon the Empire's forces were in chaos. Crew members aboard the ships couldn't focus on their orders, and their weapon systems started to glitch. Some of them even started laughing themselves. It wasn't just the humans' humor that had thrown the Empire off balance. It was their unpredictability. The Empire had seen countless worlds fall before their mighty ships, but no one had ever resisted them in this way. The Galactic Empire was built on power, fear, and control, but the humans didn't follow those rules. Instead of trembling, they had taken a completely different approach. They had chosen to fight back with something the Empire could not comprehend: laughter. As the Empire's forces struggled to regain control, the humans took action. General Markson, seeing that the Empire's communication systems were disrupted, gave the order to launch a counterattack. They fired missiles at the nearest ships, hoping to at least cause some damage. To their surprise, the missiles hit their targets, causing explosions across the Empire's fleet. It wasn't a victory, far from it, but it was a start. The humans had shown they were willing to fight back, and the Empire was beginning to realize that this planet was not going to fall as easily as they had thought. Meanwhile, Jake Daniels continued his broadcast. He didn't stop laughing, even as the sound of explosions filled the background. "I told you we weren't going down that easy," he yelled. "Do you really think we'd let a bunch of space bullies take over? This is Earth, baby. We don't do things like you do. We fight dirty. And we laugh while we do it. The laughter only grew louder as the humans began to organize. Resistance groups formed in every major city, all led by people who had never fought in a war before. They were not soldiers, but they were determined. They used the Empire's own technology against them, hacking into their systems and sending waves of disorienting signals. The Empire's highly trained soldiers, once so sure of their superiority, were left confused and disoriented by the constant barrage of laughter and chaos. As the first day of the invasion came to a close, the humans had managed to buy themselves some time. The Empire's fleet, which had once seemed so invincible, was now struggling to maintain its grip on Earth. And yet, the laughter didn't stop. It spread across the planet, from the smallest villages to the largest cities. People weren't just fighting. They were laughing too. It was as if the very act of laughing gave them strength, a strength the Empire had never considered. The Emperor, watching from his command center on the Empire's flagship, was furious. How could a species so primitive, so weak, be so defiant? He had expected to crush Earth in a matter of hours, but the humans were proving to be a much bigger challenge than he had ever imagined. As the Empire's ships continued to hover over Earth, one thing became clear to both sides. This would not be an easy war. The Empire, for all its power and technology, was facing an enemy they had never encountered before. An enemy who fought with fury, creativity, and laughter. And the humans, in turn, had learned something important. They might not be able to match the Empire's firepower, but they could always match its arrogance. And that, in the end, might just be enough. The humans had surprised the Galactic Empire. What was supposed to be an easy victory for the invaders was quickly becoming a nightmare. The first wave of battle had shown the Empire just how unpredictable humanity could be. While their ships were technologically advanced, the humans had a strength the Empire hadn't expected: their spirit. After the first day of resistance, the humans weren't backing down. They had thrown the Empire's plans into disarray, but they knew they couldn't rest yet. The Empire, though rattled, was not a force to be underestimated. They would surely strike back harder, but the humans were ready. And this time they would bring more than just jokes and laughter to the fight. They would bring their fury. The days that followed were filled with intense preparation. General Markson, a battle-hardened leader who had seen the worst of wars, rallied the human forces. But this time he was not leading them with the usual tactics of defense. He understood now that they needed to do more than survive. They had to make a stand, show the Empire that they would not only resist, they would fight back with everything they had. It was during this time that the Laughing Fury was born. It was a new resistance group, made up of soldiers, civilians, and even former comedians. These men and women had once used humor to entertain, but now they used it as a weapon. They were quick-witted and sharp-tongued, and they knew how to get under the skin of the Empire's leaders. They weren't just fighting with weapons, they were fighting with their minds, their humor and their fury. Jake Daniels, the famous comedian who had started it all, became the symbol of the Laughing Fury. He was everywhere, on the front lines, in bunkers, and on every screen across Earth. His humor was biting, his words sharp and his energy contagious. His jokes were a mix of sarcastic comments and clever insults aimed directly at the Empire's leaders. And it worked. Every broadcast, every joke made the Empire's soldiers second-guess themselves. Even the highest commanders, used to calm and order, found themselves distracted by the constant barrage of human mockery. But it wasn't just the jokes. The humans were angry. The invasion had killed many innocent people, destroyed homes, and torn apart families. The laughter masked the fury, but it was real. The humans had nothing left to lose, and they would do whatever it took to protect their planet. The resistance knew that the next phase of the war would not be easy. The Empire had already sent word that they would unleash a much stronger force, ready to wipe out Earth in one swift blow. Their plan was to hit Earth's major cities, destroy the military hubs, and break the spirit of the people. They believed that if they could stop the humans from communicating with each other, they would lose their will to fight, but they hadn't considered just how resourceful humans could be. General Markson gave the order to begin a full-scale counterattack. The humans had reverse-engineered some of the technology left behind by the Empire, and they had used it to create new weapons, ones that could level the playing field, even against the most advanced alien technology. The first sign that the humans were ready came in the form of a brilliant, coordinated strike on an Empire supply base. The base, located on one of Earth's remote islands, was responsible for coordinating the Empire's ground forces. With intelligence gathered from rebel spies, the Resistance launched a surprise assault, using both conventional weapons and the hacked Empire technology. The result was a spectacular success. The Empire's defense systems were quickly overrun by the human forces. In the confusion, Resistance fighters managed to destroy the base's power core, sending shockwaves through the Empire's ground forces. The humans hadn't just disrupted the Empire's plans, they had made a statement. They were not weak, they were not helpless. They would fight back with every tool at their disposal. News of this victory spread quickly across Earth. The humans, once seen as defenseless, were now a force to be reckoned with. Across the globe, people who had been hiding in fear now began to fight. They no longer saw themselves as powerless. The Empire had underestimated them, and it was starting to show. The next battle came swiftly after the victory at the supply base. The Galactic Empire, furious and humiliated, launched a full-scale attack on Earth's capital cities. They came with the full force of their mighty fleet, this time without the distractions of human humor. The Empire was determined to destroy Earth's major military hubs and end the war once and for all. As the Empire's ships hovered above the capital, General Markson and his forces were ready. The humans had learned from their previous victory, and now they had something even more dangerous, a plan. The Empire's ships were powerful, but they relied on their communication systems to maintain coordination. Without them, the Empire's forces were like an army without a head. The humans hacked into the Empire's communication channels, flooding them with signals, distortions, and of course, humor. Jake Daniels took the lead again, broadcasting messages filled with jokes about the Empire's invasion, their ships, and even their emperor. His laughter was infectious, and it was almost impossible to ignore. But this time, it wasn't just the soldiers who were affected, it was the ships themselves. The Empire's communications went haywire, and many of their ships found themselves out of sync with each other. The Empire's fleet, once an unstoppable force, now found itself in disarray. The commanders, who had relied on their superior technology to win battles, struggled to maintain control over their forces. The human broadcasts, combined with the fury of the Resistance, were shaking the Empire to its core. As the Empire's ships struggled to regain control, human fighters took to the sky. They were outnumbered, but they were determined. With new weapons and a fierce will to fight, they managed to break through the Empire's defenses. Each attack, each missile launched, carried the weight of a planet's fury. The humans weren't just defending their world. They were sending a message to the Empire. Earth would not be conquered, but the battle was far from over. The Empire was relentless, and they would not stop until Earth was brought to its knees. The next phase of the war would be even more dangerous. But the humans had learned something crucial. They could win by using both their laughter and their fury. And as long as they had these weapons, the Empire would never break them. Jake Daniels, still on every broadcast and still laughing, spoke to the people of Earth. "We may not have the biggest ships or the most powerful weapons, but we've got something better. We've got each other, and we've got the power to make them laugh. If they can't stop laughing, they'll never stop losing. So let's keep it up. Let's show them the fury of a planet that refuses to be beaten." And so, with a combination of humor, fury, and sheer determination, the humans stood tall. The Galactic Empire had thought it could crush them, but instead, it had unleashed a force that would shake the very foundation of the galaxy. The war was far from over, but the humans had shown the Empire something they would never forget. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The Galactic Empire was beginning to panic. What should have been a quick conquest had turned into a prolonged struggle, one they had not anticipated. The humans had caught them off guard with their strange, unpredictable defense, and the Empire was now facing an enemy it could not understand. But what the Empire did not know yet was that the humans' response to their invasion was about to spread far beyond Earth. It was becoming a symbol of defiance, a rallying cry for other worlds to join in the fight. As the battles raged on, the sound of human laughter continued to echo across the galaxy. The laughter had become more than just a way to annoy the Empire. It was a message that Earth was not going to fall. A message that no matter how strong the Empire's ships or weapons were, they could not break the spirit of humanity. The laugh was now a weapon as powerful as any laser or bomb. Back on Earth, the human forces were rallying together. Each new victory gave them more courage, and each new defeat of the Empire's forces made their resolve even stronger. General Markson had become a symbol of leadership and hope, and Jake Daniels, the comedian-turned-warrior, was everywhere. His broadcasts were a constant reminder that humans would never give up. His jokes were clever and sharp, but there was a deeper message behind them. At the height of the fighting, a huge new human fleet, built with the knowledge gained from reverse engineering Empire technology, was launched. This fleet wasn't just composed of soldiers and pilots. It included engineers, scientists, and even civilian volunteers who had worked day and night to help build the ships. Together, they had crafted a force that could match the Empire in power and speed. The humans had learned how to adapt to the Empire's technology, and they had taken advantage of every weakness they could find. Their new fleet was equipped with weapons that could disable the Empire's ships, rendering their mighty shields and weapons useless. They had even developed technology that could disrupt the Empire's communication systems, causing chaos among their commanders. But even with all their new power, it was their sense of humor that continued to lead the way. Jake Daniels and the Laughing Fury had become more than just figures of resistance. They had become the symbol of Earth's spirit. They had learned that fighting back against the Empire wasn't just about weapons. It was about showing that no matter how much power the Empire had, humanity could always find a way to stand up and fight. And if they could make the Empire laugh while doing it, even better. As the humans' fight against the Empire spread across Earth, news of their strange resistance began to reach other parts of the galaxy. Other planets, once too afraid to stand up to the Empire, started hearing about Earth's unique defense. The Empire's ships were no longer just a threat to Earth, they were a threat to the entire galaxy. In far-off systems, people began to question the Empire's rule. For years, they had lived under the shadow of the Empire, too fearful to rebel. But now, with the success of Earth's resistance, they saw that there was a way to fight back. The idea that the Empire could be defeated by laughter and fury had sparked something inside them. It wasn't just a joke, it was a movement. On the planet Solera, a group of rebels sent a message to Earth. The message read, "We've heard your laughter, and we've heard your fury. We are joining the fight." The message was received by Jake Daniels, who couldn't help but laugh in disbelief at first. "Well, I guess we've started a trend," he said, chuckling. But his laughter quickly turned into a moment of pride. Earth's resistance was no longer just Earth's. It had become a galaxy-wide movement. The Galactic Empire, meanwhile, had begun to take notice of the ripple effect. They had thought they could simply wipe out Earth, but they hadn't anticipated that their attack would inspire other planets to join the fight. Their forces were stretched thinner than ever, as more and more star systems began to rise up. The Empire had never been challenged like this before. One by one, planets that had once been under the Empire's control began to rebel. The laughter of humanity had spread, and now it was part of a much larger movement. Everywhere the message was clear. If Earth could stand up to the Empire, so could they. But the Empire was not about to give up. They had underestimated the human spirit, and they were now determined to crush it once and for all. In a desperate attempt to stop the growing rebellion, the Empire sent a fleet to Earth's moon, a secret base they had built for the purpose of launching a final strike on the planet. General Markson knew that the next battle would be their most difficult yet. The Empire's fleet was massive, and the humans could not afford to fail. Earth's new allies, the rebel planets, had sent ships to join the fight, but it was still not enough. The Empire's forces were overwhelming, and if they didn't come up with a plan, the entire galaxy could fall under the Empire's control. The solution came from an unexpected source, Jake Daniels. After days of planning, he gathered the leaders of the rebellion and came up with a brilliant, though risky, plan. They would launch a massive assault on the Empire's moon base, but they would do it in a way that the Empire would never expect. Instead of focusing entirely on firepower, the humans and their allies would use their laughter to disrupt the Empire's forces once again. But this time they would take it a step further. Jake Daniels would lead the charge, broadcasting his most outrageous jokes and pranks directly to the Empire's fleet. The idea was simple: distract the Empire's commanders long enough for the rebels to strike. The attack began with Jake Daniels' broadcast, and soon, the Empire's fleet was once again caught off guard. The ships, which had been so powerful just days ago, were now filled with chaos. The Empire's commanders found themselves laughing uncontrollably at the jokes, their communication systems overwhelmed by the laughter and pranks. Some of them even began to turn on each other, unsure of what was real and what was just another human trick. The rebel ships took advantage of the distraction. They launched a surprise assault on the moon base, catching the Empire off guard once again. For the first time, the Empire's forces began to break under the pressure. The combination of human humor, fury, and determination had turned the tide of the battle. Jake Daniels, watching the chaos unfold, couldn't help but laugh. "This is what I call a real comedy show," he said into his microphone. "And the best part? We're winning!" The battle raged for hours, but eventually the Empire's moon base was destroyed, and their fleet was forced to retreat. It was a massive victory, not just for Earth, but for every planet that had joined the rebellion. As the news spread across the galaxy, more planets began to rise up. The Empire's grip on the galaxy was weakening, and the power of the human laugh, mixed with the fury of the rebellion, had shown everyone that even the mightiest empire could be defeated. General Markson looked out over Earth's surface. The battle finally won, but he knew that the fight was far from over. The Galactic Empire was powerful, and there would be more battles to come. But as long as the human spirit remained strong, as long as laughter and fury could be their weapons, the Empire would never conquer them. The galaxy had heard the humans' laughter, and now it would never forget. The Galactic Empire, known for its might and fearsome reputation, was now facing a reality it had never anticipated. Earth, a small and seemingly insignificant planet, had become a thorn in its side. The first wave of attack had been met with laughter. The second had shown the Empire that humanity was not as weak as they had thought. Now the third phase of the battle was upon them, and the humans were ready to prove once and for all that the Empire's rule over the galaxy was about to end. General Markson stood at the front of the command center, looking at the digital map that showed the movements of the Empire's massive fleet. The map glowed with bright red icons representing the incoming enemy ships. His face was serious, but his eyes had the calm confidence of a leader who had seen this war shift in their favor. He knew the final confrontation was drawing near. The humans had fought long and hard, but now they were ready for the most dangerous challenge yet. He turned to his team of officers, all gathered around him, and spoke in a steady, calm voice. "We fought back their first two waves, but this next attack will be the biggest one yet. They're coming for us with everything they have. We need to stay strong. We've got a plan, and we're going to win this, not just for us, but for the entire galaxy." The officers nodded in agreement, understanding the gravity of the situation. The humans had fought against the Empire using their humor, their fury, and their resilience. But now, with Earth's survival on the line, they would need more than just their wits to win. They had built new weapons, adapted Empire technology, and united with rebel factions from other planets. Their fleet was now stronger than ever, but the final battle would not be easy. At the same time, Jake Daniels, the comedian-turned-hero, prepared for the biggest performance of his life. He was no longer just a comedian. He had become the face of the human resistance. His jokes and humor had been weapons in the fight against the Empire, but now he was ready to turn the tide with something more powerful. His leadership, his spirit, and his ability to bring people together. The laughter that had first filled the air had now become a symbol of defiance. It was no longer just a weapon to annoy the invaders. It was a rallying cry for all those who wanted freedom. Jake's team, known as the Laughing Fury, was ready to take the next step. They had become experts in psychological warfare, using their humor and their fury to keep the Empire's forces off balance. But today, they would do more than just disrupt the enemy's communications or make them laugh. This was the final stand, and they had to bring everything they had. They had to be ready for the Empire's most powerful assault. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore," Jake said to his team, standing in front of a large screen displaying the incoming fleet. "We're fighting for every world the Empire has taken. We're fighting for the future of the galaxy. Let's show them what humans can do when we've got something worth fighting for." The time had come. The human fleet launched into space, flying alongside the ships of their rebel allies. Each ship was armed with the latest technology and weapons designed to fight the Empire on equal terms. But it was their spirit that would truly set them apart. The humans had proven that they could adapt, innovate, and fight with everything they had. Now they would prove that they could win. As the two fleets closed in, a sense of tension filled the air. The Empire's ships, gleaming and cold, moved like a wall of destruction, ready to crush anything in their path. The humans' ships, though smaller, were agile and fast. They had learned to fight using speed and surprise, never letting the Empire get a firm grip on them. They were more than just a military force, they were a symbol of resistance, and that symbol was stronger than any fleet the Empire could muster. The first strike came from the Empire. Their massive weapons fired with blinding intensity, their lasers cutting through the vacuum of space. The human fleet dodged, weaving and turning as they returned fire. The space battle was chaotic, with explosions lighting up the dark expanse. But amid the chaos, the humans remained calm. They were fighting for something greater than themselves, and they knew they couldn't afford to lose. Jake Daniels, flying one of the fighter ships, grinned as he spoke into his communicator. "All right, folks, time for the real fun to begin. Let's show these guys why you don't mess with Earth." He hit a button on his control panel, and a burst of energy shot from his ship, disabling one of the Empire's largest warships. His laughter echoed through the communication channels, and it was contagious. Soon the human pilots and soldiers were all laughing, pushing through the fear and stress of battle. The Empire's forces had expected a quick victory, but instead, they were facing a group of people who fought with everything they had, and they did it with joy. The Empire's leaders, watching from their command ships, grew furious. They had underestimated humanity's resilience. They had thought that by sending their greatest fleet to Earth, they could crush the humans once and for all. But instead, they were faced with the laughter and fury of a species that refused to be defeated. It was becoming clear that the Empire's arrogance had been their greatest weakness. General Markson stood tall, watching as the Empire's ships faltered. His voice came over the comms, calm and steady. "This is our chance. Push forward. We've got them right where we want them. The Empire may have the numbers, but we've got the will to win." With that, the human fleet surged forward, pressing the Empire's forces to retreat. The tide of the battle had shifted. The humans, using their humor and fury, had disoriented the Empire's leadership, and now their ships were falling one by one. But even as the Empire's fleet crumbled, the humans did not let up. They pressed forward, determined to see the battle through to the end. As the final moments of the battle drew near, the human forces launched their final assault. They hit the Empire's command center with everything they had: lasers, missiles, and, of course, their humor. Jake Daniels, still laughing, led the charge, his ship diving toward the heart of the Empire's forces. The Empire's command ship, once a symbol of their power, now lay in ruins. The humans had done it. They had won. The laughter of Earth rang out, not just across the planet, but across the galaxy. The Empire's rule had ended. The last of their ships retreated into the depths of space, leaving Earth and its allies victorious. Back on Earth, the people celebrated. There were no grand speeches, no formal ceremonies. Instead, the humans gathered in the streets, laughing, dancing, and celebrating their freedom. It was a victory not just of force, but of spirit. The human race had faced the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known, and they had triumphed. Jake Daniels, standing at the head of the celebration, looked up at the stars. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with pride. "We laughed our way through the darkness, and now the light's ours." General Markson, standing beside him, nodded. "We showed them what we're made of, and we'll never stop fighting for our future. Not with laughter, not with fury, whatever it takes, we'll keep standing strong." And so the galaxy was forever changed. The Empire, once a symbol of domination, had fallen. Earth, with its laughter and fury, had proven that no power could ever take away the spirit of humanity. And as the people of Earth looked toward the future, they knew one thing for certain: their fight had just begun. There would always be new challenges, new threats, but as long as they had each other, and as long as they had their laughter, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. The laughter of Earth echoed across the galaxy. It was a reminder that no matter how dark the sky, no matter how fierce the battle, humanity would always stand tall, laughing, fighting, and never backing down. The battle had raged for months, and Earth had been through it all. From the first moments of the Galactic Empire's arrival, where humanity's laughter had shaken the invaders to their core, to the fierce battles where human fury and humor turned the tide, The Empire had never faced anything like it. And now, with the final confrontation looming, humanity stood on the edge of victory. The Emperor had underestimated humanity from the start. He believed that the human race was weak, that their primitive ways and simple humor would make them easy to conquer. But he was wrong. He had failed to understand that humans had a spirit that could not be crushed by force alone. The laughter of Earth had spread across the galaxy, and it had sparked a fire in the hearts of countless other worlds. Now, the Empire was finally on the brink of collapse. General Markson stood before the large command screen, looking at the galaxy map as the final battle was about to begin. The Empire had launched its greatest fleet to Earth, intending to end the war once and for all. The humans had gathered every ship, every fighter, and every volunteer from Earth and the rebel planets to face the Empire's forces head-on. Today, we end this, Markson said, his voice steady, but with an undercurrent of emotion. It was more than just a military victory now. It was about proving that humanity could never be broken. The lives of billions depended on this moment. The forces of Earth and the rebel systems were ready. Their ships were prepared, their weapons charged. But there was one more thing they had, something no one else in the galaxy could match. They had their laughter. Jake Daniels, the comedian who had become a legend in this war, stood in front of a small group of fellow resistance members. He smiled, a mixture of pride and determination in his eyes. "Let's give him one final show," he said, his voice full of energy. He was no longer just the man who cracked jokes. He was a symbol of humanity's strength. Jake had led the charge in the early days with his humor, but now he would be leading humanity's final stand with the same energy, the same fire. The humans' plan was simple, but daring. They would face the Empire's fleet head-on, but this time they wouldn't only rely on their military power. They would use their humor, their fury, and their unity as their ultimate weapon. The Empire might have the firepower, but they didn't have the heart, the will to fight, or the spirit of the human race. The final battle took place above Earth's atmosphere. The Empire's fleet, enormous and terrifying, descended upon the planet. Each ship, massive and powerful, filled the skies like a swarm of deadly locusts. The Empire had brought everything they had. Their plan was clear: crush Earth, destroy its hope, and silence the laughter forever. But as the first wave of Empire ships entered Earth's orbit, something strange happened. A message began to broadcast across the vast reaches of space. It wasn't a military command nor a distress signal. It was laughter. Jake Daniels appeared on every screen across the galaxy. His face filled the screen, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Well, well, well," he said, laughing. "Look who decided to show up for round 3. I hope you brought more than just big ships this time. Because here on Earth we've got something better. We've got heart, we've got spirit, and we've got humor. And trust me, when you've been laughing this long, it hurts more to stop than it does to keep going." The Empire's fleet commanders looked at each other in confusion. The last time they had faced Earth's resistance, they had underestimated the effect of human humor. But this was different. They had come with everything, expecting to crush Earth once and for all. The Empire's pride was on the line, and yet there was that laughter again, laughter they couldn't ignore, no matter how hard they tried. Jake's voice echoed across every channel. "You thought you could shut us down? You thought we'd give up? Well, let me tell you something. Every time you try to stop us, we only get stronger. And today we end this. No more Empire. No more fear, just us. And let's face it, you can't win against a planet that laughs like we do." As Jake spoke, the human forces launched their attack. Ships swarmed through the Empire's fleet with precision and speed, striking at the heart of their enemies. They used the Empire's own technology against them, launching disabling signals, creating confusion, and throwing the Empire's command systems into disarray. But it wasn't just the ships or the weapons that gave the humans the edge. It was the laughter, the mocking jokes, the messages that ran through every broadcast. The Empire's soldiers, once so confident in their power, found themselves shaking with laughter. The more they tried to fight back, the more they couldn't control their emotions. They weren't just distracted, they were defeated by the very thing they thought would make them strong: their arrogance. The humans didn't stop. They pressed forward, laughing even as they fought, their humor fueling them, pushing them to fight harder. The Empire's fleet, despite its advanced weapons, couldn't handle the constant barrage of laughter. The Empire's leaders, who had once commanded entire star systems, now found themselves defeated not by force, but by a human spirit they had never understood. As the final blow was struck, and the last of the Empire's ships were disabled, the galaxy seemed to pause. The humans had done it. Earth was free. The Empire, once an unstoppable force, was now in full retreat. The stars above Earth's skies shimmered, not with the light of war, but with the promise of peace. And beneath those stars the humans celebrated, not with victory speeches or military parades, but with laughter. They had won with their humor, with their fury, and with their will to never give up. The Emperor, watching from his throne on his distant world, was seething with rage. He had underestimated humanity, and now he had lost. His empire, built on power and fear, had crumbled under the weight of laughter and defiance. There was nothing left for him to do but retreat, and even in his retreat the echoes of human laughter followed him into the farthest reaches of space. But for the humans, the war was over. They had shown the galaxy that they could never be defeated by fear or oppression. The galaxy would never forget the lesson they had learned, that a species capable of laughter and fury could not be broken, no matter how strong the enemy. And so, Earth stood victorious. The people of the planet, once scattered and afraid, now stood united. They knew their fight had not just been about saving their world. It had been about showing the universe that no matter the odds, no matter the enemy, humanity would always rise. They would never give up. They would never stop laughing. And that laughter would always be their greatest weapon. Jake Daniels, the comedian who had helped lead Earth's resistance, stood before a crowd in one of Earth's newly rebuilt cities. "Well, folks," he said, smiling wide, "looks like we've got a lot of work ahead of us. But first, let's have a laugh because we earned it." And with that, the humans began to laugh, not just out of joy, but out of defiance, pride, and strength. The laughter echoed across Earth and into the galaxy. The war was over, but the spirit of humanity would live on, unbroken, undefeated, and forever laughing.